La 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 da 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 la la da 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 la la da.
All right, okay.
Welcome to Various Fields.
Woohoo! What's up, interwebs? How y'all feeling?
I'm Hazen Fields II.
I'm Hayes Milton Fields III.
And I'm Lex, and we are all working men.
Working men.
And that is what that intro was about, because we all be working.
Work can be hard. Bees in the trap.
Bees in the Trap. That's fair. What's actually another? Bees in the Trap, and there's another one for work. Something in a barrel or something like that. Mousetrap.
I don't know. Monkeys in a barrel.
Monkeys in a barrel.
Crabs in a barrel. Isn't it interesting? There's a lot of references for people that are working or doing something that are not complimentary. It's
not.
It just sounds like rat race. A cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
Is it a cog in the wheel? Cog in the machine. I don't know if it's a cog in the machine.
Ghost in the Shell. How have we all felt about our past work week? I know I have been busy. I have explained semi what I do in this job, and the job I currently am doing this next week, I'm going to be not looking forward to it, because my 9 to 5 is more of a general guideline than a rule. So I'm going to be probably going in at 9 and coming out around midnight. Around the week. And things like that. How about you guys?
I have the weirdest work schedule in the world for a lot of people. I work weekend overnights. Is my main job.
Right.
And that's from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then I get off work on Monday, and during the week I help people with disabilities, so it could be any time when they need me. And then in between that I Uber, and in between that I do stories for kids, and in between that, it's little different things musically we do. So it happens anytime.
He does more juggling now than he did as a clown.
Well done. That was one of the jobs. That's one of the jobs.
Currently on site, there's actually a little bit of reprieve. We came from a lot of different shows over the last few weeks. There is no show currently this week, so I'm deciding to hop on to other locations to work wherever I can, kind of like just keep I guess my energy is going in the bank happy. But at the moment we have other stuff planned for the months to come. I know the Palace Theater particularly is doing a Summer in the City series, movies that are going to be completely free to the community. That's happening from July to August. So please, if you ever hear my voice on the internet, you can definitely check those out on the dates to come. At this moment, this week has been kind of nice looking forward.
All right, let's add into it. We from Offset, we have our wonderful voice that you always hear from time to time. Nels, how's your work week been? What's going on with you? Anything particular about work?
Everything's good, filming.
All right, that's it. And we have, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the applause. For the first time here at the Only Way Out Studios and the Various Fields show, we have Mr. Paul Rudnick. He is one of the people that's a new staffer at Various Fields, and he does a lot of our advertising. You'll see his name tag. Paul, what about you? Just speak aloud and,
No, very satisfying week. Always well done when you have smiles on the face when you leave for the end of the day.
Excellent. So we're talking about work. We found out individually why are we talking about work? People are not here to find out what we do for a living. What is it about work that becomes interesting to Various Fields?
I have a take in this capitalist society, but my thing is this: I feel like my personal view on work has, if not changed, has been constantly changing. And I said this take earlier, I'll explain it first and then I'll walk it back, which is I think my newest take for work, or I try to implement for myself at the very least, is that if your work is not working for you, then you shouldn't be working it. You shouldn't be doing it. Which I think can sometimes make it either sound like maybe a lazy thing or very dismissive, but I think in some ways on like what is usually considered the bright side, everyone has a dream. Everyone sometimes either has a dream job that they want to do, is promoted to chase after a dream job, or they can be living it, not living it, trying to get something like that. And I think that's a very good thing. But I think also sometimes even that idea can be manipulated, where it's like whatever you're doing right now can maybe not feel good enough because you're trying to chase this idea of a dream job, whether that's legitimate or not, because sometimes it can devalue what you're doing now. At the same time, if you have a job that feels unfulfilling, unrewarding, and all that type of stuff, I think you should also endeavor to and somehow motivate yourself to see what else you can do, see what else other things that are giving to you, not just resource wise, just finance, not just finance wise, but like something that makes you feel like it's worthwhile, that you're fulfilling. Exactly.
Okay, that's
exactly.
Cool. That's cool. Thank you.
And I think that's harder to do sometimes because I think the idea of work has also changed. I know there's a balance of, and I'll throw it to everyone else in a second. There's a balance of, especially now, where you do work. If you do work a lot of hours, it is a good thing to be proud of. But I think sometimes it becomes competitive, where it's like you'll go to your friends like, "Oh, what was your week? Oh, yeah, man, I worked like 48 hours and 24 hours and things like that." And then people kind of have to applaud that, but also there's a lot of your personal time that was taken away. And now, like, yes, you kind of want to do it, but then it just becomes this weird competitive thing where, like, unless you're working all the time, now your value isn't really there as a person unless you are putting in work. But at the same time, and if you say I'm resting, maybe you're lazy. But also, if you know that it was needed, that should be something you should be putting time into. You should be putting time into yourself the same way you're putting time into work. You know?
I have a question then. Because I've heard this argument before, and there are moments and times when I do.
Statement.
It's this stance. You know what I mean? So there is, I guess, a question that comes up more of when does work become self-serving? When does work become sacrificial? Right? And then, I'm asking that primarily because usually those that pursue dream jobs, again, playing devil's advocate at this moment, might step into the role saying, oh my gosh, I've been pursuing this since high school. I can't believe I'm finally in the industry, right? Whether it might be like, character design, video game work, whatever the case may be, or whether they are making new scripts for vaudeville shows that are coming out nowadays. I know this, but technically vaudeville never dies. So, but with that being said, always. But with that being said, when you step into those roles and you realize, oh man, this is more than I expected, or not what I expected at all, right? When does it no longer become your dream job? When should you just find fulfillment within yourself in your current position? You know what I mean? Right? Because you're constantly pursuing the ideal, oh, this is going to work for me, may never land you in a position to, be in your ideal element. You're always pursuing that dream. Oh, this is gonna be perfect here. And the second you start seeing that, I can't find that perfect environment for myself, right? I thought it was gonna be in this building on the 7th floor, right next to the CFO's office, right? But at the same time, right, because I'm still next to the water cooler, right, it still doesn't feel right to me, or something like that. Like, when does the ideal not match up to the actual dream that you have?
Right.
That's an interesting take, and I think honestly, all of this changes as you get older.
Yeah.
What is, because we keep on talking about jobs, and then there's a job and there's a career. And then knowing where we are.
Right.
as a young man, going into the field of my career, computer. You always have like expectations of trying to do your best and this, that, and the other. But time goes on, and then you become used to the job, and you understand what the job's all about, and so you become quote unquote an expert or a specialist in what you do because you've been doing it for so many years. And then later on, you recognize this is something that you do,
right,
and it sustains you and your family. So I think for me, it's always important that we recognize that the job is just a resource,
Right.
But that which makes you delighted, happy, has to, or can come from outside of that. So in other words, if you're involved with arts and the poetry like that, I think that's what keeps you, for me it keeps me grounded. So it didn't matter what the job was, or what vocation I picked up at the moment, as long as I was content on the outside, that fed that.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm kind of speaking to, because I completely agree. Like, it's like, I don't think there's ever going to be a position that's going to be considered a dream job, right? Because you're always going to be hyping that up in your own mind. It's like, oh, this is going to be perfect for this, that, and the third reason, right? I do believe you should always pursue things that make you happy. Never stop pursuing that. Never stop making time for yourself, definitely, right? But you shouldn't always expect to find that fulfillment at every point in time in your current position, right? Like, well, we said, ooh, why not?
Why not?
Right?
Go on.
Oh, because there are moments in time where sometimes your extra effort is exactly what's needed to push forward whatever the team might need or whatever might be needed for a certain project or whatever the case may be, like to get the desired result. No one really knows what happened on the back end of production, for example, right? So there might be some mistakes, some accidents that happen, but no one needs to see that. They just need to see the show. You know what I mean? So the main thing for me personally, I believe that you should always be able to, sustain yourself in whatever you do, right? I love drawing, I love writing, I love being creative, right? But because I am usually working on other people's projects, like the shows that are coming in, right? There's not a lot of time to focus on myself while I am working. I'm working on somebody else's focus, right? And that's fulfilling me once I realize that everyone's standing up and applauding, right? Like recently we actually had the dance called The Great Gatsby from the World Ballet at the Palace Theater, and it was a phenomenal performance. Everyone loved it, right? I remember the film. I know a lot of people remember DiCaprio. Was it DiCaprio? Leonardo DiCaprio that did it as well. So there's different references that this is the first time I've seen it in dance. I also know that it's performing on Broadway this year. And I was really excited for that. When I saw trailers for like how it was being put on, all the specs and everything in terms of suiting up, how the set design was going to be laid out, and I was like, "Oh, is this coming over here?" And then I realized it was a dance. I was like, "Oh, it's not quite the same, right?" But nevertheless, right, I'm making sure that all the pieces were in place, right, for everyone to say, "Wow, that was a really good performance." It filled me up with a little bit of pride, right? And it wasn't so much like, "Oh my gosh, I was working on myself." Oh my gosh, it was the show I was expecting. It was more of the fact that, like, at the end of the day, everyone left with a satisfied grin, saying like that was an experience to remember. You know what I mean? So it's not so much working on yourself. It's not so much that you're forgetting yourself in the moment. It's more the fact of like you have to remember what you're working for. You know what I mean?
But go on.
Well, just to clarify, because I wanted to go into that in the topic, I think to me, it has a lot to do with, let's say, passion, purpose, and maybe even practice. So you do all kind of stuff. Like, it has a lot to do with, I think a lot of people say, you have to love what you do. But also, I think what you do doesn't always have to be work related or career related. What you do could be family. So if what you're doing is I'm providing for my family, and that's the thing I love, and that's the thing I want to do, and that's the thing that gives me the most fulfillment, it could potentially not matter what job you have, because as long as that job is giving you the money or whatever resources you need to provide for your family, that job is, as you said, Pops, a resource to provide for family. So that job is working for you. A lot of the statement I was making earlier has less to do with like, is it a dream job or not, but just is what you're doing working for you. And I think that even stays out the realm of work in itself. Like take the money and the feedback and the resources out of it. Take the trade and the capitalism out of it. Are you investing your own time into things that you want to be doing?
Interesting.
And if a good example for me is that for a while, I was working in news for a while, and I actually very much like news because you don't know what you're doing every day. It's a very engaging kind of job, things like that. And I was in 2 jobs that very much instilled it. But my last job, it took me places I didn't want to go, and it had me to frame things and have to think ways and things that I didn't want to do. And I actually left it for the closest time I've ever gotten to leaving a job for like almost like moral reasons. I won't get super into it, but that's because at that time, even though I was doing very much the same actions, the way I was going about it wasn't fulfilling.
Right.
And then having to step into another gig, which was film I like because it seems like it's very much an aspirational, oh man, the glitz and the glamour kind of thing. And I do realize, I think a lot of that also was what felt like a lack of accessibility. But then once I'm in it, then the idea of framing it changed. That could be a dream job, but now that it's become work, now that it's different, and now that it's just like, all right, I know what I like about this and I know what I don't, And I think a lot of the first initial drive to me being in that career was the lack of access. So a lot of it was the working that I was doing for me was me proving myself that I could do it. And then once I've gotten that, like, yes, I could stay in that job, but now it's no longer fulfilling, because before I was fulfilling my own sense of self. But now that I'm doing, and it's not that you stay at one job as long as you want, you could go through all multiple jobs, but I do think there is a level of detriment to negating yourself, what your desires or what your passions or what your fulfillment is, that I think is sometimes dismissed by what is considered to be the practicality of work. Because work absolutely is necessary. Work is absolutely resources. Yes, it is very important, but then you're putting all these things that are important above yourself, where technically you should be working for yourself because you matter. You know,
Interesting.
and I think it gets confused. Yeah, and I think it's also really important to not just I can't always say love what you do, but if you can do what you do out of love. And if you do what you do out of love, you should be able to love what you do, which we do on various fields.
Here we go.
love you, our various viewers, and make sure that all this work that we're putting in is actually coming out of love. And this is why what we're doing now is working for us. And I
Yes.
hope that it is working for you.
Oh, that's right. So remember to like, share,
hit
subscribe,
all- hit
all the buttons. That's right. And remember to comment. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. I know this particular conversation can feel heavy because we're talking about work, but it's also a hopeful thing because technically we're right now in what I'm going to call the season of aspirations
Yes.
of work because a lot of people are graduating now. They've gotten their degrees. There are people going to school, people starting new jobs with the hopes and ideas of starting a new venture. So what is the mindset? Because we're talking about the work of, how we worked over the years, but we got young people who are about to go out there and people starting new careers. What are some advice that we want to give out there of balancing work and home and the people that we, because Paul had mentioned to us that, we sometimes in our work, we have to be conscious of how our work affects the people that we are with, our family members, our close members. So there are people about to graduate. What are we saying to them in terms of their career choices and, what advice might you have?
To be fair, it's hard for me to speak into the next generation because now everyone is more or less making money online, right? It's not even so much that. It's more the fact of when we were growing up, I'm sure you hear the adage of you're not going to be able to make you're not going to get a job in making video games. You're not going to get a job in playing games all your life, and then you have people literally making careers off of Minecraft and being streamers and stuff like that, and whatever other subscription services that are out there for people individually, whether you're showing feet or whatever the case may be, it doesn't really matter, right? But people are making money that way, you know what I mean? So it's I think the main argument has always been how much can I get out of work, right? Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, right? But I think it's more the fact that everyone's arguing, and because I do agree with this. Well, I do see the point of this argument regarding how much is worthwhile. Sometimes there's a job that you're working, whether it be you're part of some type of conveyor belt of some sort. I don't want to. What happened?
Cog?
Yeah, I was gonna say a cog, but I was gonna say some kind of procession line in terms of just at what's that supply processing line. I'm trying to remember the word I'm thinking about.
Assembly line?
Assembly line. Thank you very much. I couldn't think of the word. So you could be a part of that, or you could be part of I don't want to dismiss anyone's job, but you could feel stuck in a rut, just being in a cubicle in a call center. You know what I mean? And then he's like, how much am I making? Week to week, month to month, right, to provide for my needs, to provide for my benefits, because there's a lot of times when you're working that 9 to 5, you feel like you lose a certain level of autonomy. And then along with that, you see on your Facebook post or whatever, your Instagram, or every single day, you're seeing someone else on vacation or celebrating this, that, or the third. So you feel like because they're celebrating this, that, and the third, and mind you, they might be pictures that were posted up from last year's adventures, right? Maybe they just posted up now, right? You're seeing that in the instance, oh man, I wish I was in the Bahamas now. Oh man, I wish I was able to see Paris. I wish I was able to see Rome. He's like, how come I can't do this now? And then you hear your lunch bell ring, and he's like, oh, time to go right back to it. You know what I mean? So I know there's a lot of people that are saying I'm missing out because I'm not doing that thing. I'm not doing the other thing. And then the second you go, obviously we already know that the grass is always greener on the other side. We don't really know what got them there. You know what I mean? So they could have just been posting pictures of the year for that one yearly break that they had, right? And at the same time, you also have those scam artists are saying, look, if you want to make $160,000 a year, come join me. All you have to do is subscribe right down here, right? And we'll teach you all the fundamental tricks that you need to be a part of this industry.
Get rich quick scams.
Exactly, all of that. So there are a lot of people that are supporting this freedom lifestyle, right? And they're not telling you the work that goes behind it. You know what I mean? And to be fair, when I was in between jobs, I have also looked into those get rich quick schemes just to see what they were offering. Never subscribed to any of them, but like wanted to see what it was, right? Sometimes they will put you on like what you call it, evening group chats with one another, and that they can last for like hours, right? Just for them to promote a product that you're never going to buy because it's like $300, $500 on startup, right? And he's like, well, I'm in between jobs. How am I going to get that to you, right?
Right,
And like,
right,
it's like
right.
maybe, and then they'll talk it all the way down to like $19.99 a month, right?
Oh,
Just to
dear.
be constantly giving them money, right? So technically, you become their paycheck, and they're trying to encourage you to be more of an outreach to get more money for them. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of people out there, and I'm hoping that there's someone out there doing a legitimately good job at some of these things. So, but through life, what we learn is that as a young person becoming older, you're going to experience U-turns. You'll see something that you think is the thing. You'll get your
Right.
degree, and sometimes people get into a malaise because they're like, I got my degree in this, but I'm working in that, and they feel at the moment that I'm not doing that which I was called to do. But I want to give hope to those who are actually that. No, it's when you get your degree, you very well may be working something that's degree adjacent, or you may be doing something that's not in that career at all. But never lose hope, because what happens is sometimes people feel, and we put this an unwritten rule on our lives that which I was supposed to do is what I was supposed to do, and so there's sometimes that can add to people's lack of enthusiasm. But I just want to say to you, that as if they're young people anyway, or at whatever age you are, embrace where you are at the moment and recognize that your job is a resource and your career is a resource. And if you find delight in any one of those things, that's fantastic. But if you feel as though what you're doing is just it becomes methodical, or it just becomes a day by day, you have hope and understand that there's other things that can delight your heart in and outside of the job, so you don't worry about it and continue to pursue, because all those things, I've honestly believe that if you continue to go forward, the kind of concept, if you build it, it will come kind of thing, and just keep straight ahead, dig in, and keep on doing it. Eventually, you'll see another door will open, and you'll go there. So.
I think my take for work will come from why I believe most people work, at least from the day to day, which is money, and to try to get something back, which is think of money as a tool, not an answer, which I think is a take that is not always given in the American society, at least most, where it's like with any tool, if it's working for you and that tool works and that tool is getting the job done, then keep utilizing that tool. Make sure you have that tool in stock. Make sure you have that tool as easily accessible to you. But also, if you're throwing this tool or this money at a problem and that is not alone fixing it, you might need different tools. You might need different resources. You might need different answers. Because I do know a lot of people who see money as an answer rather than a tool. So if they're not doing good in their relationship, if they're not doing good with their families or other things that are interpersonal or to them themselves, sometimes the first thing is, I just need more money. And that's not always the answer.
Indeed.
But I do think money is a great tool to have, and it's a great thing to learn. It's a great skill to have, but it's not the answer to everything. It's not the only skill you should have. So if it lines up with what you need it to do, then line it up. If it doesn't, there's no shame or harm in stepping away, taking your break, all that jazz, because I think the individual is always more important to your own life outcome. If you're living to work for something, if you're working to get something, you yourself need to be there, and the way you want to be is important there.
Right, and all of these things that we're saying, we're giving you things to feed upon, but nobody's we're not, as a community, we're not a monolith. Everybody's gonna
Speak for
have,
yourself.
we're the Borg, No, but we're all going to have a different take. But what we want to suggest to you, from our perspective, we want you to be healthy in your spirit first. We want you to be healthy inside. And if anything that takes you away from that, then you need to reconsider what it is that's causing. It could be work, it may be something else. But if work is making you feel, I'm going to use the word spiritually lethargic or something like that, then we want you to, consider what can you do to change that. It could be the job. It could be just something else that you have to look at. But I always say, as a father, if there's anyone out there that, they're pursuing something and it's not what you really like, my preference is, before you leave a job, try to interview for something else so you could leave something, but you have something, there. I'm not a big proponent of, I'm just quitting.
Right.
And then you have nothing while you look, because that becomes that whole thing. It can make you a little bit more anxious because now you're feeling, things will happen, especially to our young people who are going that you put so much stock into what your future might be. I promise you, how I'm going to say, your future will come. The future is on its way. So as you walk into it, you just continue to walk on, and it somehow or another, miraculously, you'll start to figure it out.
I will also say, like, if you want to feel like you're making progress, or you feel like you're kind of stuck in a rut, go into any job with a plan in mind for what you're going to do in your position in that job, right? I'm not going to say you're going to change the industry the second you get hired, all right? But it's more the fact that, like, you're working towards the goal, right? As opposed to, like, looking at a numbers or feeling like you're part of some type of statistic or part of the machine, right? Having a goal in mind while you're in that position, whether you're shaking hands with executives or trying to bring up a new idea for the industry that you're in or the job that you're working at, will definitely help you feel like you're not so stuck, right? Particularly if you think that you can make that happen within 3 to 5 years, arbitrary numbers. But, like, if you put those in your mind and say, I'm working towards this for this reason, then you can at least say, in those steps in obtaining that goal for yourself, you can open up new doors and pathways to shake hands with people that you might not have expected, as opposed to just clocking in, doing the job, and walking out, right? Having those goals in mind, even if they are not fulfilled in that moment or if fulfilled in the way you want them to be, will definitely open up the avenues that you need and the skills that you might need to take to some other location and other occupation down the future, right? So everything is obtainable as long as you pursue it.
Okay, we got a couple more minutes left. Let's end up on the...
If we're doing last notes, then I would say 2 things. First off, if you feel like, because I think we're taking it from different angles, if you feel like you're looking for fulfillment, you're not getting it from work, you're not getting it from maybe sometimes relationships, things like that. I always feel helping people and being there for people, like maybe doing some charity, and not just for the sake of it, but giving to people with the sake of I'm here to give, can also make you think of not just money, but how you're giving and what you're receiving differently. And I think fulfilling, helping other people when you can, is a good way to also understand that as well. So if you feel like there's a lack of fulfillment, help give to people, look for things and places you can reach out to help people. And as a last statement, money isn't everything, but it helps.
That's right. All right, to my entrepreneurs, real quick. Everybody's not going to see your vision. Everybody's not going to see it the way you look at it. So don't get discouraged when you don't get all the encouraging words that you hope to get. You got to find it inside first and push until you feel that the pushing can be pushed no more. I believe it. What Papa used to say. I've stand all I could stand. And I can't stands no more. Well, if you're not Papa, but if you're that way, make sure you do that. As well as lastly, if you're working somewhere, one bit of advice: present yourself for the job you want, not for the job you're at. So in other words, if you have an idea when you go to your job, dress like you want the supervisor job or whatever job.
It's only a bad idea if it doesn't work. I say that only because there's a lot of industries or a lot of institutions out there that will not invest in you until you've proven that your dream and your goal is obtainable, right? They would much rather see it in action. They much rather see it viable and tangible rather than investing in something that they may not be willing to pursue directly, right? If you already have steam in that engine, they'll gladly come aboard.
All right, send us on.
All right. Go home. See y'all later, guys.
Thank you so much for being here at Various Fields, and keep on working. You got it.
Peace out, everybody. Can't wait till we get monetized for this.
Oh.